Well, how do you figure out what a price for a technology should be? Again, price has to be contextual because price is determined by the value you generate for the end user. So it's very difficult in the abstract to talk about price. Once we know who the end user is and the application where it's being used, the practice in which the technology is being deployed, we can figure out what would the end user pay for similar functionality or for an equivalent technology, a substitute technology. That gives us a benchmark. If we can't find that, we can think about the orders of magnitude that they usually pay for things. For example, if I'm looking at an acupuncture needle that an acupuncturist would work with, I know that the needles probably can't be priced much more, no matter how fancy they are, than $50 to $100, because I can look at the benchmarks for the other things that the acupuncturist buys, and I can begin to make some assumptions. On the other hand, if I'm looking at a needle that's used as a probe in surgery, the prices obviously can be substantially higher. So how do I deal with price before I know what the application is? Well, basically, I'm not looking at price. What I'm looking at when I just get a technology is cost. What should it cost to make this? What should it cost to make it in small batches at a prototype level or a onesie-twosie level? If it's going to be scaled up and used with thousands and thousands of them, what do we think it'll cost when we're in production? That gives us the floor on the price, because nobody wants to lose money. So if we know what the floor is, then it's simply a question of two things. One is, what's the profit margin that you need in order to make it worthwhile doing it for whoever is commercializing it, the target downstream, the people selling it. And two, when I do have the application, what's an end user willing to pay for it, or the people who buy for it. But otherwise, price in the sense of a market price doesn't really make a lot of sense when I first have invented something. I need to think much more about cost rather than price. And the trick there is to remember that the cheaper it is, the better it is, except for we don't want cheap in the sense of junk, we want cheap in the sense of inexpensive. So that said, let's go on to talk about stretch in the next session.